There comes a moment when the path you chose no longer feels like yours, not because it was wrong, but because you've changed. Quietly, slowly, without fanfare. The person who once dreamed of this life is no longer the one waking up to live it. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you're lost. It just means you're growing, becoming. And with becoming comes shedding. Of roles, beliefs, expectations, of versions of you that once felt like truth, but no longer fit. Sometimes they were stitched together by survival, woven from the need to belong, to prove, to be good, to not disappoint. And maybe they served you for a while, maybe they even kept you safe, but now they weigh heavy, like clothes too tight for the soul you're becoming. You feel it in the tension in your chest, in the way your smile flickers, in the moments of silence when you wonder, is this still me? Change doesn't always announce itself. It whispers, nudges, it invites. Till one day, you can't ignore the quiet ache anymore. You want more, or maybe less. You want peace over perfection, meaning over momentum. You want to breathe without performing, to rest without explaining, to exist without apology. But the fear is real. If you change your mind, will they still accept you? If you walk away, will they call it failure? If you say, I don't want this anymore, will anyone understand? These questions keep you stuck, rooted in a life that no longer nourishes you. But the truth is, you are allowed to change. Even if no one claps, even if some walk away, even if you can't fully explain it, you are allowed to let go of dreams that no longer light you up, of identities that no longer feel like home, of plans that once made sense but now feel hollow. Letting go isn't giving up. It's honoring who you've become. It's making space for who you're meant to be next. The world will try to keep you where you've always been, in the roles you've always played, in the masks you've always worn, but you don't have to stay small to be loved. You don't have to stay stuck to be loyal. You can honor your past without being bound to it. You can thank it for getting you here and still choose to leave it behind. This is not betrayal. It is evolution. It is courage. It is truth. Your truth deserves to be lived. Even if it makes others uncomfortable. Even if it breaks a few expectations. Even if the road ahead is uncertain. Because uncertainty is not emptiness. It's potential. It's possibility. It's the first breath of a new story. One where you are not performing a version of yourself, but finally meeting who you've always been beneath the layers. That is not selfish. That is sacred. So if you feel the pull, honor it. If you feel the ache, listen to it. You don't owe anyone the same version of you forever. You don't owe anyone your silence when your truth has changed. You don't have to keep pretending this is enough. It's okay to want something else, to want more ease, more meaning, more softness. It starts with one breath, an honest whisper in the dark. I think I've changed. That's not weakness. That's the beginning of freedom. And freedom doesn't need permission. It just needs your yes. Your willingness to listen, to trust, to follow the truth inside you, even when it shakes everything around you, because that truth is your compass, and it's pointing somewhere beautiful. There's a strange kind of grief in growing, not always loud, not always obvious, but soft and persistent, like a whisper that says, you can't go back. Back to the version of you that once fit so well, but now feels like a coat 2 sizes too small, tied around the chest, suffocating around the shoulders. Still you hold on to it, because it's familiar, because it reminds you of who you were. And who you were kept you safe, or at least safer than the unknown. Change asks you to loosen your grip, to trust a version of you that hasn't fully arrived yet, to believe in a self you can't quite picture. It's disorienting. But it's also the beginning of liberation. You are not betraying yourself by changing. You are honoring who you've become. Sometimes staying the same is what hurts more. Staying in a place you've outgrown, speaking words that no longer sound like truth, living from beliefs that never felt like yours to begin with. Growth asks you to be brave, but not in a loud, heroic way. Brave in the quiet moments. When you choose to question what you've always accepted, when you admit you want something different now, when you allow your values to shift, It takes courage to let the old self fall away. To say that used to be me. It's not anymore. And to let that be okay. You don't have to cling to the roles you once played. The strong one, the always agreeable one, the overachiever, the one who never needed anything. These roles helped you survive. But maybe you don't need them anymore. Maybe you're ready to choose differently. It's not selfish. That's healing. Real growth isn't about becoming someone new. It's about peeling back the layers. Letting go of what was never really you. Reclaiming the parts that got buried, silenced, shamed into hiding. You're allowed to make room for them again. To let joy in without earning it. To rest without guilt. To say, I don't want this anymore. Even if you once fought hard for it, especially then. Because you are not static. You are fluid, evolving, expanding, becoming. You do not owe permanence to past versions of yourself. You owe presence to the one you are now. That version deserves your gentleness, your patience, your compassion. You're allowed to be confused, to not have clear answers, to just know that something inside is shifting. That's enough to trust. You're not lost. You're just between stories, between the old chapter and the next. And yes, that space feels uncertain, but it also holds possibility, freedom, a chance to decide who you want to be next, without pressure, without performance, with softness, with intention. Change is not abandonment. It's a form of coming home. It's who you are now, not who you were told to be. You can mourn the past and still move forward. Both can be true. You don't need to have it all figured out. Just need to keep listening. To the voice inside that's getting clearer, the one that says, it's okay to change. It's okay to grow. You don't have to prove your past right. You only have to be honest now. Let yourself soften. Let yourself shift. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are in process. And that is a beautiful place to be. Sometimes the person you're most afraid to disappoint is the past version of you, the one who dreamed in straight lines, who thought life had only one path to worthiness, who thought success would feel like safety, and love would arrive once you proved enough. You tried so hard to stay loyal to them, to keep walking in a direction that stopped feeling like home. Even as your soul whispered, it's okay to turn around. But change can feel like betrayal, especially when you've wrapped your identity around the life you built. Even when that life has started to hurt you, so you keep holding it all together, smiling through the pressure, quietly grieving the parts of you that feel left behind. But what if letting go isn't failure? What if it's freedom? The courage to tell the truth, that you've outgrown the dream, that your needs have shifted, that the old version of you couldn't have known what you know now. And that's not their fault. It's just time to thank them and move forward. Changing your mind doesn't mean you lied back then. It means you're listening now. To the quiet ache in your chest when you wake up. To the tiredness behind your eyes that no sleep can fix. To the desire for more. Not more things, but more truth. More honesty. More space to be who you are becoming. You are not obligated to become a monument to your younger self's expectations. You are allowed to grow out of your own story into one that fits the person you are today. Even if that story is still unfinished. Even if it feels fragile. Especially then. I think reinvention has to be loud, dramatic, announced to the world. Sometimes it's a quiet unfastening, a soft turning toward, something gentler, something more honest. A life that makes room for who you are, not just who you've been. Maybe that looks like changing careers, or choosing rest instead of chasing. Maybe it's no longer hiding the parts of you that don't fit the old mold. The you who needs more slowness, the you who wants less proving. It doesn't need to make sense to everyone else. It doesn't need to be justified with numbers or timelines. Sometimes your body knows before your mind does. That you're done forcing things to fit. That you're ready for something softer. For a version of life that feels like exhaling. When you release what no longer serves you, you make space for what truly can. Not a better version of you, just a truer one. A you that isn't performing. A you that doesn't keep editing herself for approval. A you that trusts her own timing. It takes bravery to become who you are now. To shed the expectations others pinned on you. To admit you've changed even when they haven't. To risk being misunderstood in the name of being real. But your peace matters more than your image. Your alignment matters more than your momentum. You're allowed to slow down. You're allowed to course correct. You're allowed to pause and ask, is this still true for me? And if it's not, you're allowed to pivot. To gently back away from the plans that no longer feel right. To choose joy over legacy, wholeness over perfection, meaning over maintenance. There is no shame in becoming, no shame in saying that was me then, and this is me now. You are allowed to change your mind, even about things you once loved, even about things you thought were forever. You're not giving up, you're giving yourself a new beginning. One that starts with honesty and ends with peace. Not everyone will understand. That's okay. They don't have to live with your choices. You do. And you are allowed to choose a life that makes you feel alive again, even if it looks different than what you pictured, even if you're still figuring it out. You don't need to have all the answers. Just enough courage to say, this isn't me anymore. And that's okay. Let the old version of you rest. She carried you this far. Now it's time to walk as who you are. Growth isn't always graceful. Sometimes it's messy and uncertain. Sometimes it feels like standing in the middle of a bridge, unsure if the other side even exists. But even then, you're moving. Even stillness can be a step forward, especially when it's filled with reflection. You're learning to live without a script, without the pressure to explain yourself every time you shift direction. That's part of healing. Letting yourself change without needing a reason that makes sense to others. You're not required to keep walking a road that no longer leads to joy. The truth is, some paths were only meant to carry you for a season, and when that season ends, it's okay to say goodbye. You're not abandoning your past. You're honoring it by listening to the voice it helped shape, the one inside you now, the one asking for something different, something freer. Reinvention doesn't always mean starting over. Sometimes it just means letting go of who you were told to be, so you can make room for who you truly are. That might look like fewer yeses to things that drain you, and more space for stillness, for slowness, for softness. You don't have to be defined by the goals you once chased, or the roles you once played. You can lay them down gently, one by one, not in shame, but in peace. Not as failure, but as evolution. What if the old you isn't wrong? Just outdated. It's like a favorite sweater that no longer fits. No matter how many times you try to stretch it, there's nothing wrong with outgrowing something. There's wisdom in noticing it, and compassion in letting it go. You can hold gratitude for the dreams that brought you here, and still choose a different dream now. You can appreciate the people who knew the old you, and still surround yourself with people who see the new one. You are not a fixed character in someone else's narrative. You are a story still unfolding, with room for edits, detours, and surprises. Don't be afraid of being misunderstood. Fear the version of you that keeps pretending to be okay. The one who performs perfection instead of embracing growth. You were not born to be consistent. You were born to be real. Sometimes real means changing your mind halfway through the sentence. Changing direction halfway through your life. You don't need to apologize for wanting something else, even if that something is rest, or silence, or a life that doesn't look impressive on the outside, but feels peaceful on the inside. That version of life is worth pursuing.
Ow.
Even if it doesn't fit in someone else's idea of success. You are not here to be consumed. You are here to be whole. You're not here to prove. You are here to live. If you've been carrying a version of yourself that no longer feels like truth, you are allowed to set her down, gently, lovingly, and say, "Thank you for getting me this far." You can rewrite your story, even in the middle of the book. You don't need a dramatic ending, just a new page. It can begin quietly, the small decision to honor what you need now. Maybe that looks like saying no without guilt. Maybe it looks like saying yes to something you once feared. Or maybe it's just sitting with yourself in stillness and whispering, "I am allowed to begin again." There is no age limit on reinvention, no deadline for returning to yourself. You can come home to who you are, even after years of wandering, even after a lifetime of pretending. The journey back is not a straight line. It's winding and soft. It will ask you to shed old beliefs like skins that no longer protect you, to step out of identities that became prisons, to stop shrinking just to stay familiar. Yes, change can be lonely, but so is staying where you no longer belong. Loneliness is not always a sign you're lost. Sometimes it means you're between versions, between the life you had to build and the one you're finally choosing. And in that in-between, there is beauty. You get to listen. You get to feel what's true. you get to dream differently. There is no shame in needing a new story, even if you once promised the old one forever. Especially then, because your truth today deserves more weight than your promises from yesterday. And the you that's emerging, she deserves space. She deserves breath. She deserves to be seen, even in her unfinishedness. You are not broken for changing. You are simply unfolding. What you're becoming is not too late. It is right on time. Listen, the next version of you is whispering. Will you let her in? You are not here to stay frozen in someone else's idea of who you should be. You are not a statue carved in stone. You are more like water, flowing, shifting, adapting, still entirely yourself. But somewhere along the way you were told that changing meant failure, that letting go meant giving up, that to be strong was to be unchanging. And so you tried to hold still. Even when your soul begged for movement, you ignored the soft ache of misalignment. You dimmed the parts of you that wanted to grow in new directions. You wore the same mask until it began to crack. But change is not betrayal. It is honesty. It's the courage to say this is no longer me, and that is something to be proud of. We all outgrow things. Not because they were bad, but because we're still becoming, still learning how to belong to ourselves. Think of the parts of you that have changed over the years. It's the beliefs you no longer carry, the habits you've released, it's the roles you've outgrown. They're not losses. They're signs of life, of motion, of truth. There is wisdom in shedding your former skin. Even if you loved it once. Even if others miss the person you no longer are. Especially then, because staying the same for someone else will never feel like peace. And peace, not approval, is what you deserve. When you resist your own growth, it starts to hurt. In your body, in your spirit, in the quiet moments when you feel like a stranger in your own life. That discomfort is not your enemy. It's your soul knocking, saying there's more for you than this, and there is. But you won't find it by pretending you're fine, or by clinging to what used to feel safe. Safety and freedom aren't always the same thing. You might be safe in a version of life that doesn't fit anymore, but are you alive in it? Do you feel real? Or are you just performing a version of yourself that's no longer honest? It takes bravery to stop performing, to say, I'm allowed to need different things now. I'm allowed to grow away from what once grounded me. I'm allowed to become a softer version of myself, or a louder one. I'm allowed to change. The past version of you was doing her best. She made choices that felt right with the tools she had. But today's you, she knows more. She feels deeper, and she deserves the chance to choose again. You don't have to erase who you were, but you can evolve her. You can gently expand her limits. You can soften the hard lines. You can open the windows to let fresh air in. That's what changing your mind does. It brings in light. Where once there was only duty, or habit, or fear, you're allowed to let go of dreams that no longer bring you joy. Even the ones that meant everything to you once. That doesn't make you flaky. It makes you awake, alive, in tune with what your soul actually craves. What's calling to you now? What feels curious, even if it's unfamiliar? Let yourself follow that. Let yourself play again. Let yourself step into the unknown without needing to have it all figured out. You don't need certainty to begin. You just need permission. And that permission can come from you. You don't have to wait for the world to understand. You don't have to explain your shift in identity. You don't owe anyone an old version of yourself, even if they loved her, especially if you've been living to make others comfortable. There comes a time when your comfort matters too, when your softness needs space, when your desires deserve voice, so give yourself that space. Let yourself want more than survival, more than appearances. Let yourself want what feels alive, nourishing, whole. There is no shame in becoming, no weakness in change. It is the most natural thing in the world. And it begins the moment you stop apologizing for your evolution. You are not too much for choosing peace. You are not too late for a new beginning. And you are not wrong for letting go of a version of you that no longer feels like home. The hardest part of changing your mind isn't the change itself. It's grieving who you thought you'd be. It's saying goodbye to the version of you that held on so tightly. She meant well. She wanted safety and clarity and love. But she doesn't have to keep driving the story. There is a new voice now, one rooted not in fear, but in truth. That voice says, it's okay to let go now. It's okay to close the chapter, even if it ends mid-sentence. even if not everyone understands. We're not made to live a single storyline forever. You're meant to shift, to stumble, to reroute, to rewrite yourself as many times as you need. And each version of you is valid. Each one held lessons and tenderness and effort. There is no wasted version of you. Only stepping stones toward the truest one. And that one, she's not perfect. She's not polished or finished or always certain. But she's real, and she's here. Ready to take your hand and walk forward, not backward. The world may still expect the old you to show up. They may call your name the way they always did, but you are allowed not to answer. You're allowed to pause, to breathe, to step away. You don't have to keep performing for their comfort or pretending for their peace. There is peace for you too, the kind that's honest and quiet and free. And it begins the moment you stop asking for permission to change. The moment you realize no one else can validate your becoming. It's yours. Sacred, gentle, messy, and magical, and fully yours. The old you is not your enemy. She's an ancestor now. A memory you can thank. You can place a hand over your heart and whisper, "Thank you for getting me this far. I'll take it from here." There's grief in that, and also relief. Because the pressure to be who you were can be exhausting. But the freedom to be who you are, that's a quiet kind of joy. The kind that doesn't need applause. The kind that hums beneath your skin and says, "I'm home." You might feel lost at first. It's like walking barefoot into a new world. But keep walking. Every step you take toward the real you is worth celebrating. Even the small ones, even the slow ones, especially the uncertain ones. There is no deadline on coming home to yourself. No rush to figure it all out. You're not late. You're just arriving. And the door is open. Your identity is not a cage. It's a canvas, painted again and again, with different colors, different strokes. Let your life be a living thing. One that grows and bends and heals. One that listens to what you need. Now, not what you needed 5 years ago. Not what others still expect of you, but what feels real in this moment. You are not obligated to stay the same. You are not trapped by your past dreams. You are allowed to shift without guilt, to breathe without explanation, to choose peace, even if it looks different than it used to. There is nothing wrong with wanting something new, wanting something softer, wanting something that fits. That longing isn't selfish, it's sacred. And the world needs people who are brave enough to follow it. Because when you honor your becoming, you give others permission to. You remind them that it's okay to begin again, to rewrite, restart, rebuild. You become a lighthouse, not because you have it all figured out, but because you're willing to be real. Willing to choose yourself, even when it's hard, especially then. So this is your invitation. To stop hiding behind the old you. To stop apologizing for your growth. To stop shrinking, to stay familiar. You are allowed to change your mind, to walk away, to step forward, to become. Not because the old you was wrong, but because the new you is ready. And she's already waiting. This is quiet philosophy, where thinking isn't loud, and life doesn't need to be either. Subscribe if you haven't already, not for noise, but for something you can actually feel.